All right, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first of probably many broadcasts here. This is a unscheduled, off the cuff, off script kind of show because I'm pissed. I'm pissed off. Meredith knows why. She doesn't know what all we're going to cover tonight. She had some computer issues over the last couple of days, so she's pissed at the world anyway. And she's like, I'm in. I just told her I was wanting to do a pissed off show, and she said, I'm in. And the thing is that this is not related to Geek Insider. It's not related to Wild One Forever. This is just a personal broadcast out tonight. And I don't know how long we're going to go. You can check out my new channel that it was set up tonight. It's just called the Not So Happy Hour. We'll be getting some stuff rolling over there. But what I'm pissed off about, folks, is the weaponization of cancel culture. And the whole damn thing is, yes, I understand that when these crazy Karens are going off, that they deserve to be called out. When they are racist or they are, let me talk to your manager or whatever the hell they're doing, a lot of them do deserve to be called out. But I am seeing a lot of weaponizing of this whole movement. And Meredith, you'll have to forgive me because I'm just going to go off for a minute here because Meredith was offline. We received a message on our platforms, Facebook, and it was somebody that had gone back all the way to April, and they were trying to put Meredith on the spot about a guest we had back at VirtualCon. And they were like, how dare you have this person on? And I'm paraphrasing here, and I'm not going to call anybody out by name. But it was, how dare you have this guest on with these rape and abuse and molestation allegations, and it's willful ignorance at worst, and just la da 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 da. Well, and yeah, and it's at Meredith. Well, I am the managing editor of this platform, and Meredith being offline, and the boss bringing it to my attention, going, "What the hell is this?" I immediately look, and not only was I already familiar with this guest, I had high respect, or have, I don't had, I have high respect for this guest. And so I went looking. I took the allegations serious. I went and did an initial search, and I couldn't find jack shit about rape allegations or molestation or abuse or spousal abuse, none of this that this person brought to my attention. And so I asked them, well, can you please point me to your source? Because if this is true, then I definitely want to know about it. Nothing. Person didn't answer me back, didn't say jack shit. Well, me being the digger that I am, or what, wanting to make sure of things, I spent 2 hours searching through things, even went into the dark web looking for stuff, couldn't find nothing about this particular person. So I wrote her again, and I was like, listen, I've spent several hours on this, and I'm sure you can understand in this day and age how important it is to back up your claims. Mm-hmm. Still nothing. So I contact the person that these allegations were made about. Sure as shit, folks, this goes back a decade to that this man, who this is a good man. This is someone who helps the elderly. This is someone that helps children, that entertains people wherever he can, that has a very good reputation out here. And this person approaches us and expects us to cancel this person without a shred of proof. Then today I confront them after I spoke with our friend, and I confronted him and I said, can you, I can't believe that you can't. Well, here, I'll just look it up. What did I say, Meredith? Because I know I told Meredith. I said, crap. Just a second. I'll find it. It'll take me just a second, and then I'll let you speak, Meredith. I ain't let you said a
I
word
just want to
edgewise.
say hello to Jackie.
Hey, Jackie.
Run while you can.
Yeah, you might want to run because I'm pissed off. I'm gonna make Meredith pissed off. I said, all right. I told him who I was. This was my own opinion. Doesn't necessarily reflect those of the company or other employees. And I said, while I can understand your outrage at allegations like this, it seems to me that someone in your position would attempt to investigate this sort of thing before reaching out and trying to ruin a man's reputation. I am horrified that you would do this without a single shred of evidence to back you up. This is how people lose jobs, loved ones, and even their lives. Not to mention, you wasted my valuable time going through to debunk and address this. Going forward, you would do yourself and the world a favor if you would take a few minutes to ask yourself, why hasn't this person been arrested? Why hasn't there been class action lawsuits? Why isn't this all over the web? Lashing out against those that do wrong is perfectly acceptable as long as they actually did wrong. Misdirecting frustration and anger at anyone that comes across your radar is appalling, and I have to say, it appears as though you or whomever told you this fabrication is trying to weaponize the cancel culture. And that's what tonight's show is about, is weaponizing the cancel culture. Because, folks, I understand that all of us are frustrated. We're pissed off. We're tired of this bullshit over the last couple of months. We're tired of the Karens, and we'll get into more of them here in a minute. We're tired of just the crap out here. But to misdirect that and to go out and dox someone and out them as being a racist or whatever the case may, a rapist, a child molester, without any sort of proof to back it up is wrong and on so many levels. And so that's the whole reason for the show tonight, because this person decided to reach out and tell us that we did wrong by not vetting this person when you do go to vet the person, in which we Meredith and I both do a cursory search on our guests. So A, we can find out cool things to talk to them about, but B, to make sure they're not in the headlines for something like this. But I go through pages and pages of Google, and there's nothing about this guy. Go onto the dark web. There's nothing but good things about this guy. But we're supposed to just cancel him on the word of an anonymous person online. And that leads us into the rest of the show. Man, I bitched for 8 solid minutes there. Meredith, chime in because you know about this too.
Uh, you know, when I was divorced, when I was first divorced, everything was fine. You know, he went his way, I went my way. For the most part, I was taking care of the kids for the majority of the time. I had custody. But as soon as I started having a good relationship, all of a sudden CPS was in my world because he didn't want somebody else raising his children. So it must be abusive. You know, this woman, you know, me must be crazy and all this stuff. And how dare she? And so he weaponized CPS against me. And that was a really shitty thing to put our family through because he couldn't handle my happiness or whatever the case might be. I'm not going to presume to know what is in his mind or what he was thinking when he did that, but I mean, it wasted so much time and to what end, you know? Um, I mean, I had to take the kids to therapy, court ordered. I had to go to court several times. I mean, just the stress of that alone. And CPS would be walking through my house and checking the cupboards to make sure that there was food and that they weren't living in filth and all of this stuff, based on nothing but an anonymous phone call. And I said, that wasn't anonymous. That was my ex. And he told me that he was going to call you. What am I
And
supposed to do at that point? So I understand that there's a need for them, but when you have anonymous calls like that and you're going to disrupt somebody's life, you better fucking have some kind of proof.
yep.
I understand that anonymity is important in some cases, and I'm sure that there are many cases. But then you have people like me who didn't deserve it, and it was really, quite honestly, a waste of the court's time. How do you fix something like that? I don't know. But when you have an asshole who goes out there who has a big mouth and just wants to be heard, and they want to bang their chest, and they want to disrupt someone's life, that's what they do.
And just like what my brother just said in chat here, and I'll share it. Oh wait, not that one. This one. Fuck CPS.
Now they have a job. They do have a job.
Okay, they have a job, but according to them, you are guilty until proven innocent, and that is un-American. I can't stand them. We'll get into this. Is why I'm pissed off tonight, folks, because this allegation that this person threw at us and bitched at Meredith about is something that I have a personal dog in the fight, because CPS came 2 years ago. The granddaughter, man, I ain't even talked about this shit at all, Meredith. I don't even know, but I was raising my granddaughter for 5 years. My wife died, my late wife. I have a new one, but my late wife died. I had her for over another year. My daughter and my ex-son-in-law failed their drug tests. There was a bunch of shit that went on, but my ex-son-in-law accused me of molesting my granddaughter, in which my granddaughter vehemently denied. But yet to this day, because there is an investigation against my stepson and it was in my house, I cannot speak to my granddaughter until the police clear this case. 2 years. I was questioned the day after the allegations were made, and they said, Mr. Harris, there's no allegations against you. It's over. I've spoken with the police several times. Mr. Harris, there's no allegations against you. We have no reason to keep you from talking to your granddaughter. The freaking prosecutor will not tell the judge that I am not under investigation. And that's all the judge needs. They tell me, well, you need a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. And so I was guilty until I am guilty. Still 2 fucking years, I am guilty. The person we're talking about that I started this show with has been guilty for 10 years without a shred of evidence, man. Not one single shred of evidence. This man has been hounded. They have tried to cost him jobs. They have just literally tried to take his part of his living away. Well, not part. They've tried to take away 2 sides of his living away. And a lot of it goes into cosplay, folks. Those of you that know us from our other platform know we deal with a lot of independent artists. We love cosplayers, but the cosplayers are a very big clique. And I'm sorry, folks, if you're a cosplayer and you go to a lot of these shows, you're in a clique and you are quick to judge before there's any evidence. Just as long as a couple of people or one person even says it, you will start gabbing that shit to everybody. And that's what happened to this man. If you know who I'm talking about and you don't agree with me, please email me, but I will be more than happy to hear your side. If you have firsthand evidence against this man, which I know you don't, but I'm willing to hear it. If you have a story and you can change my mind, by all means, please change my mind. But I have spoken to this person for hours on end about this since yesterday because I was disturbed about it. And this whole thing of you're guilty until you're proven innocent is absolute bullshit. And we're not doing any commercials tonight, folks. Like I said, this is off platform. This is me pissed off. I pulled Meredith in. She was just getting her computer up and down, or up from being down. And I said, Meredith, this is what's going on. You want to join me tonight? And she was like, hell yeah, because she got pissed off too. And it doesn't just stop there, folks. There is a lady that her name is Fiona Moriarty McLaughlin, which Meredith might tell me is McLaughlin because it's kind of spelled like her last name. But that GH, I think it's Loff here, not Lock, like Meredith's name. But let's watch this video first, and then I'll tell you what happened after the video and then what she says actually occurred. Do I completely believe her? No, because I take everything these days with a grain of salt, and some of what she says doesn't make sense. But we'll talk about it more in a second. Watch the video.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really. Lol. Boyfriends of Instagram. Good job, guys. BLM.
Man, I took you off, Meredith, somehow. There you are. Okay. So it looks like this lady is just grabbing a drill to look like she's helping with the after effects of the riots and everything. And this lady was accused of being a Instagram influencer, and that she just posed for this, in which upon first inspection, it does look bad. But she says, and this is all over the news yesterday. It says, after 2 nights of protests and looting in Los Angeles that turned Santa Monica, the city I call home, into what resembled a war zone, I felt the need to do something. I wasn't sure exactly what, but I thought I might visit the destruction and document what I saw. I had already begun to take short videos of the chaos. I'm a young journalist, and the reaction came naturally to me. On June 1st, I headed down to Santa Monica to record videos of the devastation, as well as workers fixing storefronts. Stopping by Patagonia and Roadrunner Sports on 4th Street, these are the real heroes of today. Thank you, guys, I said aloud as I filmed. That's her quote. She says she was struck by the businesses that were boarded up, and she asked her dad to pull over so she could speak to a construction worker that was pulling up plywood. And as she discussed the cleanup with him, she says he handed me the drill in a joking and friendly manner. I went with it, and in the spur of the moment, a photo was snapped. There was absolutely no malicious intent, no big master plan. The accusation it was some sort of so-called influencer photo op or attempt to appear like I was cleaning up is completely false. Prominent figures, man, like Pink and I think it was LeBron James, they shared the video and it prompted it to go viral. And she says, all I wanted to do was record and recognize the work and backbreaking labor of individuals that are taken for granted who helped restore Los Angeles. But I stepped unwittingly into an online cesspool of sanctimony, false narratives, and clickbait. The 21-year-old recent college grad, folks, she was supposed to work for the Washington Examiner as a summer intern. But after this video went viral, she received death threats. She was doxxed. They caught her license plate in the video, and she was completely doxxed. They said her dad was her boyfriend, but it went viral, and the arrangement with the Washington Examiner was canceled by the Student Free Press Association that she was a part of that helps young journalists seek careers in the industry. It was not canceled by the Washington Examiner, and that Student Free Press Association is still planning on working with her. They're just wanting everything to die down first. But that's my point. We don't always get the whole side of the story on these things. And in a minute, you're going to see two very different views of a video on a different situation that proves this point exactly. And folks, I understand wanting to take out Confederate statues. I do. I used to drive around with a Confederate flag on my front license plate. I had one hanging above my door frame for years. My kids grew up with it. To me at that time, it was a sense of Southern pride. Two of my best friends in the world at that time were African American men. One of them was married to a white woman, and one was single. We were best of friends. One was the best man at my first wedding. None of them took offense to it because they knew how I felt. I thought it was I felt it was a Southern pride thing. I had nothing to do with the South in the Civil War. How the hell can you be proud of that? We lost, or they lost. I do understand wanting to take down those statues. That I don't believe that they should be on the courthouse steps like they are in my town. I think they should be in a museum with a proper context so that they are not shunned, and we're not trying to hide that history, but that we are still teaching and we're still letting people know the good and the good, the bad, and the ugly of these historical figures. But to go trying to cancel white Jesus, folks, anyone that has any common sense knows that Jesus wasn't white. There's just no freaking way he was born in the Middle East and looked like this. It just didn't happen. Wanting to cancel out Mount Rushmore. I'm an American Indian. Yeah, the facial hair really gives me away, doesn't it? But my father is a full-blooded American Indian. My grandparents on his side were born on the reservation, not born on the reservation. He was. And then my grandparents, or my grandmother on my mother's side, was a full-blooded Cherokee Indian. And so while I may look white and I may have the facial hair, there was just a lot of really strong white genes in there. So I do get the whole Lakota or Black Crows, whatever. Excuse me, I get it wrong. I don't have my notes in front of me for Mount Rushmore. But trying to completely cancel everything about our history just isn't going to work. And folks, I am an independent. I have been an independent in the heart of Texas for decades. I have voted for both George W. Bush, George W. Bush, Ronald Reagan. I voted for Bill Clinton. I voted for Obama. I didn't vote in the 2016 election because generally I go with the lesser of two evils. And at that time, I just couldn't pick one. And we'll stop it at that. The thing is I am an independent. I have left views. I have right views. I consider myself somewhere in the middle, that I really am not represented by either party. So, and like I said, I have Southern pride. I flew the Confederate flag for the longest time. I've got 4 American Eagle tattoos, folks. My first, second, and third tattoos were American Eagles. And I keep ignoring chat. You're going to have to tell me if somebody says something. But that one right there was my very first tattoo. And then I've got 2 on the back and then another one over here. But anyway, the thing is, I am a very proud Southern man. I have always been a proud man. But for us to weaponize the situation going on right now is wrong on so many effing levels. And Meredith, I've done it to you again. Talk. Just keep going off and off. I told you I could have done this show alone because I could have just totally bitched for an hour and not had a problem.
And I told you I'd sit here and nod. My concern is I completely agree that a lot of the statues and things like that should go into a museum should have context, because we don't want to erase the history. We want to acknowledge it. We want to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes. But when we stop communicating with each other, and the one who shouts the loudest wins, nobody wins.
Exactly.
And it's unfortunate that it seems like I can't believe that we're in 2020 and that this is still a discussion.
Right.
And it's not even a discussion. It's who can shout down the person the loudest and shut them down, shut them up, and cancel them.
Exactly.
And it's really frustrating because I didn't grow up this way. So I don't understand it. And, when people say, well, how can you not be so upset by this? I'm like, I didn't grow up with this. I come from a multicultural family. My mother was straight off the boat. My father's side came through the Canadian border. We didn't come through Ellis Island, so all of this stuff for me is historical context, but not at all associated to my life. So there's a certain amount of, I don't get it. But respect that boundary, because I really don't. So I'm not going to feel that passion behind this whole movement of whatever the hell is going on in the world. I've got enough energy to take care of the world around me, and barely that. So if I can make my world a little bit better, and the people that I interact with socially, online, if I can keep that positive and keep the communication going, that should have more weight. Hey, Chris, it's good to see you. It's been a long time. But, that's what I mean. It's like the communication isn't there anymore. We've shut down our ears and opened up our mouths, and it should be the complete opposite. So when it comes to somebody who's just spewing for the sake of tearing down something without providing any context, I don't get it. I will not defend that. Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a debate. Let's show what we can show and not just talk for the sake of talking.
Right.
And so that's really frustrating to me, because again, I don't have a dog in this fight at all. There are things that have happened to me that I feel wronged, but am I going to hold that, like earlier I was talking about CPS called on me. Am I holding that against my ex? Well, I mean, that was a pretty terrible time, but I'm over it. You know why? Because I'm indifferent to him now. I have no emotional attachment to that man. There's no reason to. So it was just a blip in my history, and I've let that go. And I've done that because I don't want to give him the emotional real estate, because he doesn't deserve it. And frankly, my kids are grown. So the interaction that I'm going to have with him is going to be later on down the line, when we have these milestones, when the kids get married, when the grandchildren start coming, and we have to kind of be in the same room. Am I going to hold something that happened, 15, 20 years against him? No, because I don't care. I'm beyond that. I've grown, and I hope that he has too. And so, I mean, we've been in situations where we had to be in the same room, and there was no animosity. There was a little worry beforehand because we didn't know.
Right.
It was like, oh, is he going to be a complete asshole? And he could have been.
And he was thinking the same thing.
Exactly. He could have been thinking, oh, is she going to be a complete bitch? And so when we got into the room, it was just like there was a truce, because there was indifference, to what shit happened beforehand. And, and that's a nice place to be for me. So I'm pretty even keel with this stuff. But again, I see the passion, but have something behind it beyond just screaming. Because when you're
And
screaming,
accusations.
yeah, I mean, and it's scary because people's reputations are being ruined for something. And then the other thing that I don't understand is if you aren't guilty of anything, why are you apologizing? So the apologetic people are on my list too. They
Well,
pass.
and I get that. But one, I have to say, for me, in my opinion, you were hella lucky to grow up in the household you did, because I grew up in a racist household. My parents used the N word off the cuff. My uncles and aunts all did. Anytime, any black person. But I am proud of myself, and I'll toot my own horn on this, that I was able to change two white some bitches' minds. And one was my dad's, which my high school best friend, his name is Donald Rougeau. That's my brother from another mother. I still talk to his mother. He passed on a few years ago. But my dad met him, and this is after me growing up most the 3/4 of my life at that time with hearing the N word and how black people aren't worth a shit. And I come home one day from work, and my dad is sitting at the kitchen table with Donald having a beer, and my jaw hit the floor. The other one is a lot more extreme. My brother Jason's in here. He knows what I'm talking about. We had a friend who was a skinhead when we met him, full bona fide Confederate hammer skinhead. I had Jason and I had met a interracial couple. The man was one of the best men I have ever freaking met. And once I got him and Michael together, they became friends. And his whole world, his whole belief system crashed because he found a black man that he could relate with. And from then on, he actually turned state's evidence against the Confederate hammerskins. It was just a complete change around. Him and his wife were both skinheads. I ain't ever seen a woman shave her freaking head before then. And to see it at that time, and we're talking the 90s, man, the mid 90s, it was kind of freaky because these fuckers wore the Doc Martens and they went out to the parks to stomp heads, and they had gathered weapons across the country to try to take over the government. It was just the stupidest freaking shit you ever heard of. And once me and Bobby talked to him, and we were able to have this intellectual conversation with him and make him realize that his hatred had no foundation, it went away. But anyway, that's kind of off the subject. We're getting into racism and not cancel culture.
Point to what Doreen was saying. It's the end result of safe spaces. So many don't know how to process others' opinions. And
True.
I think that there's something to that also, because lately it feels like people are so adamant and so passionate about their opinion that they've erased the line between opinion and fact.
Exactly.
And so they're right, and they feel very right. And so they're going to shout down somebody who isn't of the same opinion. And I think that's dangerous because, the subjective and objective, there's a line there. There's a line. And unfortunately, again, like I said earlier, it's usually the loudest person who wins.
Right.
But if we accept that, then what are we winning?
We all lose. We all lose. And
And so but shouting back doesn't help. I mean, I've had this conversation before where when you're talking to a person and you're looking them straight in the eye, and when you're having a good dialogue, when it's back and forth.
right.
But when you're talking to a person who you can see their eyes kind of rolling up in the back of their heads and they're thinking about the next thing they want to say, they're not listening to you at all. There's no conversation going on. They just want to talk at you at that point. They don't want to talk with you. They don't
Right.
want to move the dialogue ahead. They're not in a position at all to
listen.
try and listen or learn or hear another perspective. They've closed off that door. And at that point, you might as well be banging your head against a wall. And at that point, it's just frustrating. So what do you do? Do you walk away, or do you just say, and if you do walk away, if you
Smile
just
and nod, boy.
right, if you smile and nod, or you walk away, then you're the bitch. Because you didn't want to hear what they had to say, because what they had to say was apparently very important.
Right.
And again, it's that closing off of, I'm not listening to you at all. I'm just thinking about the next thing I want to argue about. My next point is, and I'm going to hammer that into you until you are on my side. And that is dangerous. I believe with all my heart that we have gotten to that point now where people have lost the ability to communicate effectively with one another. And that's really sad. That is really sad.
It is.
Not all of us, but
no. And I have to hope that there are more of us, or more like us, out there that just don't have the platform, don't have an interest in going to Twitter, don't have the interest of being involved, because otherwise, what is the use? Because, like you said, the I can shout louder than you. I guess one of the things that, and we've talked about this a little bit today, one of the things that, besides me having a dog in this fight with the person that contacted us about the whole thing, one of the things that really pissed me off was that this was a transsexual female that contacted us. And to contact us without any sort of proof, or even just the slightest bit of documentation against this person, just goes against everything that I think this lady should stand for, in my opinion. I personally know several trans females, several trans males. Meredith and I don't want to say we couldn't care less about your sexuality. That's kind of the way it is. What you do in your house is your business. We would love to talk to you 9.75 times out of 10. But when you are in a disparaged group, for you to come out and try to disparage someone else without any sort of anything to back you up, just, I've got this second, or this person admitted that it was even third-handed. A friend of a friend said this. How the hell can you go up and try to ruin someone's reputation over that? Now, I want to kind of switch gears here, because this next clips that I'm going to show you, these are two that have gotten really freaking popular over the last few days. Now, Meredith, I know you don't follow the news. I know you do follow Twitter and stuff, but you've been down for a couple of days, so you might not have seen this.
Yeah, you know what? Let me just, before you play that, I have turned off the news, and I'm a much happier person, because I tell you what, sometimes when I turn on the TV, it's like road rage. You know those people who get in the car and they're just immediately angry.
Yep.
I'm not an
Yep.
angry person by nature. I'm not. But when I turn on the news and I just hear some of this stuff coming out, and I can't even just say it's news. It's like all TV anymore. I mean, basically, my happy place is like watching Forensic Files, which sounds funny. Talking
Hey,
about.
I'm right there with you.
I'm like,
Murder porn
Forensic
all the way,
Files,
man.
give me like the History Channel, the Learning Channel. It's just I want something that I can learn from, maybe. Um,
Wait, you're learning from Forensic Files? Pat, watch out!
I know. He gets really frightened when I say I want to do research for a book, but yeah, I'm probably on a soft watch list for my Google searches. But
Shit, girl, we're both there.
I
We're
know,
both there.
but it's one of those things where I can feel as soon as the TV's on, I can feel it. It's just like, "Argh," and I'm instantly angry. So I turned it off, and I'm much happier for it. And here's the other thing that I do. If I see something interesting crossing my feed, whether it's Facebook or on Twitter, then I don't listen to the narrative. I don't listen to the commentary. I go, oh, that's an interesting piece. And I go digging for that story, and I go look for my own sources so that I can form my own opinion. Because if I'm listening to the narrative, you're going to either go one way or the other. I don't think that there's a middle road anymore. So, I mean,
There's not.
For the people who are kind of, trying to keep sane and stuff like that, I think that they need to turn off the TV, turn off the social media. If you find that one thing, do your own research. I think that's so important because you got a brain. Please use it.
Very much so. And Meredith brings up a damn good point there, folks. I don't care which side of the quote unquote aisle you fall on, left, right, center, leaning left, leaning right. Do yourself a favor and stop watching the conservative channels or only the left-leaning channels. Look at both and then decide for yourself what the news is. Because the truth is, just like any breakup between a man and a woman, you got his side, her side, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. And that's the way it is with the left and the right. And I want to read this one real quick because Amy had a hell of or Meredith, you read it because I ain't got my glasses on.
Okay, from Amy Flowers. People have started treating opinions and beliefs as sacred, and you can't touch them. Even facts can't touch them. They will throw off their cognitive dissonance in favor of beliefs and opinions, and anyone saying anything different is offensive. Discourse and open-mindedness and willingness to change your mind based on facts is no longer a thing. It's like if you change your mind, it's a sign of weakness when it used to be a sign of strength. And
Man,
that's
beautiful. Amy, that is absolutely on target. And that's what's sad, folks, that just that last thing there, changing your mind used to be a sign of strength. And now it's a sign of weakness. And I want to attempt to change your mind on something. If you folks are on social media or hell, just about anywhere you've been in the last 2 days, you have likely seen this next video. And I'm going to start with the video that you most likely saw. And let's take a look.
She got the gun on me.
Get away.
She got the gun on me. He about to hit me with the car. Call him. I'm telling. Please. Call the police. You about to hit me with the car. These motherfuckers try to hit me. And they pull a gun out on me. Move out the way. Yeah, I got it.
All right. So that's the video that landed on Twitter all over the place. I saw it shared. God,
That's
lot.
the first time I've seen that.
Well, if you look under Crazy Karens or Karen's Gone Wild, that was one of the top ones yesterday. And that is the clip that 95% of them show. Granted, it looks like this is a crazy white bitch going nuts on a black mama and her daughter. And I will preface this by saying that the woman and her husband were arrested. But this was yesterday. I want to show you now the entire video, and I'll refrain from commenting until we watch the whole thing. So here we go.
Wants to violate a 15-year-old.
No, I'm asking a question. She's a
She
child.
bumped into me when I
So
was
if she did something wrong, she needs to apologize. If she did
This
something
ignorant
wrong,
woman,
apologize.
this ignorant woman
If
bumped
she
into
didn't
a
apologize,
15-year-old,
Correct?
and you're on camera.
Okay.
You're feeling threatened.
Okay, well, go in.
No, Mom.
I got this.
You're blocking me from getting in my car.
No, we
okay.
weren't. No, we weren't. No, we weren't. You're ignorant.
Go ahead, call them.
No, we will, but you're not going to sit there and violate a 15-year-old.
She's ignorant.
Do it, bitch. Do it. Go ahead. Do it. I want you to
Call
do
the
something.
police.
She's very ignorant.
Dumbass bitch. Yeah, I said it. You say something, I'll beat your white ass. Yeah, oh, I
You-
will. Do something. Please put your
Do
motherfucking
something.
hands up.
Do something.
Please.
Who the fuck do you think you guys
Who do you
are?
think
Who
you
do you
are?
your wife think you are?
You
you
calling her
fuck-
name?
yeah,
She
you-
did nothing to
Yeah,
you.
I
she
didn't.
apologize.
I
Go
didn't.
ahead, Kayla. I dog
No, you
my butt
didn't.
over there.
You're very racist and ignorant.
You're racist because you're calling
No,
her
you
name.
bumped it. She bumped into me.
Why would you bump into
You
her?
cannot just
Why
walk
would
around
you
calling
bump her?
white
Why
people
would you bump her?
racist. This is not that
Why
type
would
of
you
world.
bump her?
White people
Why
are
would you
racist.
bump her?
No one's
Why
racist.
would you bump her?
I
Why
care
did you
about
say
you.
sorry?
I care
Why
about
did you say sorry?
And I'm sorry if you've
Why
had an
did you say
incident
sorry?
that has made
If you
someone
bumped
make
into
you
her,
feel
why
like
did you
that.
say sorry?
No one is racist.
If you didn't do
I'm
anything, why
sorry
did
if
you
you
do that?
had something like that
Dumbass.
happen.
Ignorant. Ignorant.
Okay, let's go.
Very. Ma, watch.
Get the fuck away from me!
You don't get on her face.
You better get on my fucking face.
Right now, get away.
Get the fuck away!
Get the fuck
Get
back.
away. Get the fuck away.
Are you gonna hit? You gonna shoot me?
Get the fuck away.
Oh!
Get away. Call the cops right now. Call them.
Oh!
Call the cops.
Get the fuck away.
Call the cops.
Get away.
She got the gun on me.
Call
He
them
about to hit me
now.
with the car. Call them. I'm telling. Get the
Call the cops.
Get the license plate.
Get.
Get the license plate now. Cause you were never about to hit me with the damn
Don't
car.
you
about
fucking
to hit
know.
me with the car?
Fucking
Oh, both of y'all put the guns on me.
Yeah.
Okay? Call Richard back up here, the police. Call Richard back up here now.
I got it.
Don't you fucking jump behind my
no,
car.
No, I ain't jumping on your car. What
Don't
you
you
doing?
fucking jump on
Mom, stop moving. Stop, Mom.
Get the fuck back! Back the fuck up! No, you can't fucking leave.
You got all this on video? Yes.
Real comfortable. Call the police. No.
Mom, stop walking.
Hello, police. Call the police. Can you come back to your call the police? Call the police. You fucking
They pulled the gun out on her.
These white people, they're so racist. They pulled a gun on my mama, both of them. It was a white lady and a white man.
Yeah, I got it. They called the gun.
All right, Mary. Let's get your opinion first.
You never get the full story. You only get somebody's narrative.
Yep. To me, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it looks like the lady walks behind the car as they're backing out, and then she slaps their car. The white lady was scared and jumps out and pulls her gun. Was that the right move? No, it wasn't. She wasn't in danger of her life. But this is my point. Half or a portion of the video from one phone, as you can see, that is a totally different angle from the original video we saw. So we only see a portion of it. So which one were the police shown before they arrested this couple?
Mm-hmm.
They are hollering racism, and then we hear that the whole racism thing is because the lady didn't apologize. She's sitting in the car. It sure sounds like she's apologetic to me. Yes, I'm white. I may be leaning on the wrong side here, but after let's just watch the first part of this video again, and let's see what's wrong here.
Wants to violate a 15-year-old.
No, I'm asking a question. She's a
She
child.
bumped into me when I
So
was
if she
walking.
did something wrong, she needs to apologize. If she did
This
something
ignorant
wrong,
woman,
she apologize.
this ignorant woman
If
bumped
she
into
didn't
a
apologize,
15-year-old.
right? Correct?
So the whole thing is because the lady bumped into the 15-year-old and didn't apologize. Folks, I'm disabled. I walk with a cane if I'm lucky, if I'm just going short distances. Otherwise, I'm in a wheelchair or a cart. I can't tell you how many people have stepped in front of me, bumped into me, and don't even freaking look at me. Black, white, Mexican, yellow, green, whatever freaking color you want to say. I've had them all. Does that mean they're racist because they stepped in front of me? No. Do I get any less pissed off? No. I get really pissed off because I'm disabled and me stepping around you causes me pain. But case in point, these folks were arrested. Now, I don't know if the cops saw the whole damn video or not, but I do know that there's a lot more to this story than what we were initially led to believe, because in the first 24 hours, give or take, the only video we saw was the first one where the lady is pulling out the gun or has the gun dead center on that camera.
At each other.
Exactly. And so, of course, the internet mob goes after the white couple. They're in the wrong. How racist? They're so racist. How dare they pull a gun? The lady is pregnant. I don't know if you saw it in the first video, or the second video. She's holding her tummy. She is pregnant. She's I don't want to say how many months, because I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that there is three sides to the story. There is the wrong quote unquote the wrong party's side, the right right party's side, and then the truth. And I think that's what we have a case of in this particular case, or in this video. And this all goes to everything we've been discussing tonight, man. A lot of this cancel culture is going on the un-American principle of guilty until proven innocent. And folks, that makes my ass hair stand up on that one, because that one is that I joined the Marine Corps because I wanted to fight for my country. I was willing to die for my country in the late 80s. And to see this kind of shit stirring this kind of crap in this day and age, this is 2020, the 21st freaking century, man. Why are we worried about skin color? Why are we worried about what somebody likes to do in the privacy of their bedroom, or who they want to be miserable with for the rest of their lives after saying I do? Why do we care? There is a billion and one other things that we could worry about at this point. And if we put our energy into that, think of how much better the world would be. And that's why I said I'm pissed, because this is wrong, folks. And granted, going back to high school, I said again, I grew up in a racist household and in the South, and I adored the Confederate flag. And there's another reason for it. My high school mascot was the Rebel, and we had the Confederate flag, a big one, on the basketball court, and I had one in my senior ring. It was a Southern pride thing. But now I know better. And my brother and I had this discussion a couple of weeks ago. He was of the same opinion that I used to be. He said, Matt, this is a Southern pride thing. And I was like, brother, when it stops becoming a pride thing and it is offensive to other folks and they consider it oppressive, and what their ancestors went through. How can we call it Southern pride, especially when that flag lost the freaking war? I mean, you want to talk about, and I've seen this, so I'm stealing it from the social media. The real Confederate flag, folks, is a white fucking flag because they surrendered. It's not the battle flag. They lost. And again, you're talking to a man that had hellacious Southern pride. I couldn't be happier to be a Texan. Well, used to couldn't be happier. Now these days with Abbott and these fuckheads in that, we won't get into politics.
Yeah,
so
get away from the politics, Matthew.
Yeah, we're already bitching about enough stuff. I don't want to get into the politics, but and Doreen, you're welcome, and thank you for saying that. But this is, ladies and gentlemen, I understand getting pissed off. I do. I get pissed off all the time. I'm starting a whole fucking channel about it. Meredith and I have differences of opinion on a lot of things, but we can have a civil conversation about it. We can agree to disagree and then still work together on a shitload of projects and do these shows together, whether I'm behind the scenes or she's behind the scenes or we're together on a show, because we respect each other's opinions and we respect each other as human fucking beings. And there is too little of that these days. Everybody wants to force their opinion down somebody's throat. Everybody wants to immediately cancel somebody. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I follow the Karen's Gone Wild hashtag on YouTube. And trust me, these bitches going out and going nuts because they're told to wear a mask and they're throwing groceries or they're attacking somebody, spitting on counters and all of that. Them bitches need to be slapped. I tell my wife all the time, I wish a Karen would, because I'm going to punch them in the throat with my cane. There ain't no doubt about it. I don't care which side of the fence the bitch Karen falls on. But going and ruining someone's life on hearsay, rumors, could have been, should have been, second and third hand information, you're a bitch. You're a dick. You're a bastard. And I won't say the one word I want to say because it encompasses both sexes, but I think it'd probably get me banned from Facebook. But yeah, we're talking that word because you are. If you are trying to ruin someone's life and you don't have an iota of proof other than the word of someone who says a friend told you this or a friend of a friend, you're a dick. Don't care which sex you are. You're a dick.
I think that answers Christian's question. What's the male?
I think they're calling them Kevins now.
Are they? Oh, no.
Yeah, which is my middle name.
Actually,
Yeah.
I know a couple of Karens too, and I
My
love
mother-in-law's a Karen. I try to explain that to a lady with Alzheimer's, that her name is a bad word.
How did that happen?
Yeah, well, it is.
But that, and again, I will say this again: we have to shut our mouth and open up our ears a lot more, and
not just our ears, our hearts.
Right? Yeah, and be open to possibilities that your opinion might not be fact. You might not always be right, and you
Christian
might
said Richards.
and you might not be the most important person in the room. It's just be humble, be open, shut up every once in a while. It's like you'll get your turn to be heard,
Yep.
But I think when everybody shouts, here's the thing, okay? My boys are grown. And I was a yeller. I yelled, I hollered, I screamed, and
Not you.
and they were like, "Wah!" They just kept on going. But when I got quiet, they were like, "Oh shit, mom's mad."
Oh shit.
When I got quiet, and I think that's a lesson that a lot of people have forgotten, is that when mom gets quiet, she's really mad. And I
Right.
think that we need to tone down, stop the screaming, because when everybody's screaming, nobody's heard. You know,
And that explains why I kind of get worried when you're quiet in chat or on the stream, and I'm like, "Wait, Meredith, is everything okay? The bitch done gone quiet. We're all in trouble." Rick, run,
no,
Alan.
when you get the quiet with the eye.
Well, remember that day we were streaming and I saw you give the eye because somebody was being loud in the background, and I was the one that caught it. I was like, "That was the mom eye from hell." She was telling someone to shut up. But, you know,
Christian, you are the most important person in the world. You absolutely are.
exactly.
And
But
flowers need to love the humans. Some humans are easier to love than others. That is absolutely true.
very
And
much
some are
so.
just miserable. You know, I always said that you know, even our family members, I love them because they're blood relatives. I love them because I have to, but I don't always have to like them. And I think that that we can use that for our friends too, and our acquaintances.
Well,
You don't have to love them all.
there is,
You don't have to like them all the time, you know. But we are, you know, if we're in the same room, or you know, and we're all on the same planet, it's like let's try and get along a little bit here, folks.
well, and as me and my
Not that hard, you know.
well, me and my brother always say, the family you were born with is nowhere near as important as the family you choose.
I agree.
And that's the thing. I have chosen my family, and some of my family has chosen me, or dischosen me, I guess, the thing.
Yeah.
But when it boils down to it, everyone, and y'all know, if y'all have tuned into our stuff, I do the geeky, cheeky, and downright freaky with the multiverses and the Mandela effect and all of that. But we are all, like Amy said a while ago, we are human.
Mhm.
And I try to give every human the benefit of the doubt at first until they prove me wrong. Unfortunately, most prove me wrong and give me a reason not to trust them. And I'm old, or I say old, I'm 50. Shit, brother, how old are we now? I'm 51. Um, I'm 51 years old now, and I guarantee I can count the true friends on one hand. And that's the way I like it. And then, like Jason just said, you pick your family. You being born with a specific family, especially you folks that are transgender or non-binary and stuff, when you get family that doesn't accept you, that's not your fucking family. They're not. If they don't accept you for who you are, just because you share blood doesn't mean you're family. You going out and finding that person that you feel is your brother, your sister, your soulmate, that's what's important, not what you're born with. But the flip side of that is we can't go and attack people based off of hearsay, rumors, innuendo, and just non-factual stuff. Because, guys, I see this on Twitter every single day where people are getting doxxed, they're losing their jobs. Another one, and I totally forgot to pull this up. There was a young girl. Damn it, I wish I'd have pulled this video. She made a 17-second video, and she was totally doing it tongue in cheek, where she's talking about whenever I say Black Lives Matter and somebody comes back at me with all lives matter, I'm going to cut them. I'm going to stab you, stab you, stab you. And then when you're crying that you're dying, I'm going to show you my paper cut, and I'm going to say my paper cut matters. And I got what she was saying. Well, she lost her job. I can understand to a point, but she put on there, this is for legal reasons, this is a joke or whatever. But the cancel culture, to wrap this back around to where we started, the cancel culture is getting out of hand. Before you jump in on that fucking train of spreading someone's name, address, phone number, because folks, it doesn't just stop with them losing their job. People are getting death threats. People are having their children's lives threatened. They're getting tires slashed, their property damaged. Just think before you jump on that train. Make sure that you have all the information, because 9 times out of 10, you don't. You have somebody else's perception of the truth. So, yes, I'm just like a big portion of you. I get pissed off when I see these Karens online throwing shit and spitting on somebody and giving them shit. But we also have to look at, go do 5 minutes, 3 minutes of a web search. See if there's more to the video before you start outing these people and demanding that whatever company they work for is that they're fired from it, because some people are on the edge anyway, and you throw them on the wrong side of the tracks based on innuendo and nothing that's fact driven, it causes suicide. And there's been a lot of it going around lately, folks. Some government agents or politicians are trying to weaponize that at this point. We had some instances in the last couple of days with the gaming community where sexual allegations, sexual abuse has come out on the Smash Brothers tours. I'm not saying none of that's fake. I've read a lot of it. It's totally wrong when I'm reading that 30-year-olds are having sex with 16 and 15-year-olds and then trying to justify it. There's no justification in that, brother. I don't give a fuck that you were in the pool and she slipped it in you or what. There's no justification for screwing a 15-year-old girl. Just ain't none. You ain't got none. Don't try to give none. But before we go on and ruin somebody's life, career, marriages, everything else, before you jump on those trains, think about it for a minute, because the guilty until proven innocent whole, whatever the hell you call it, I can't think of the word I want to. Meredith, I did it again. Almost made it through a whole show without forgetting my train of thought. But that whole culture of just guilty until proven innocent, you're going to have one enemy for sure against you, and that's me. Because that is wrong. That is not what this country is based on. It's not what we should stand for in the 21st century. Yes, call out racism. Yes, call out misogyny. Call out these assholes that abuse their wives, girlfriends, children, mothers, fathers, whatever, if you know it to be a fact. But if you're going off of somebody else's shit, do a little bit of work. Holy shit, Pat throwing stuff at you or what?
Yeah, fireworks. But you know, on top of that too, I like to believe that there's a redemption story for people. Now, there are instances, and I mentioned this earlier today. It was not a recorded conversation. It was just a side conversation that I was having. But last summer, I was on a jury for a child porn case. And it wasn't that he was caught in the act or anything like that, but he had the material. So he was not only watching child porn, but he was distributing it. Okay. And that absolutely changed my life, because I knew the horror of it and how disgusting it is. But as a juror, I had to watch the evidence. And so I actually saw that, and it changed my life. And I have absolutely no tolerance for stuff like that. So the man had due process. He had a jury of his peers who had nothing to do with him. You know, and by seeing something like that, it changed my life. It fucked me up for months. I mean, to this day, I still have issues with
See,
that.
I
And so when it comes to due process, um, that is very important. And we need to be objective. We need to be able to see those dirty, nasty, disgusting things um, as a jury of our peers. That's where the due process comes in. If there is evidence against it, we have to look at that. But before then, to look at the man and not see any of it, not hear the arguments and things like that, to just go by either hearsay or the opinion of, oh well, he looks like a really clean cut, nice looking gentleman who
right.
can never do that. You make those flash judgments all the time.
Yeah, like Bill Cosby.
Exactly, and it's like you have to really try and be objective about it. And again, I will emphasize this until I'm blue in the face. We have to be objective. We have to take what we hear and dig a little deeper, especially if it's going to affect somebody else's life. I don't have tolerance for what that man did, and he got a unanimous guilty verdict on it, and he is doing his time. When you have cases like this, like the video that Matthew showed earlier with the woman pulling a gun, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. And, maybe I'll get hate mail for this. It could have been a hell of a lot worse if she pulled the trigger. But man, maybe she just wanted to get away, because that's what happens when you're all screaming at each other. Then we turn into these wild animals, and then that animal instinct kicks in, and it's fight or flight. And it's scary. It's scary when we get to that point. And all I can say is, again, when you are out there, the only person that you can really control is yourself.
Exactly.
You cannot control anybody else. You can control your own narrative. You control what you're going to put out there into the universe. I wasn't sure if I was going to be very comfortable sitting on, in this live stream with Matthew, because it's a tough topic. And but the thing is, when at the end of the day, if we're talking about communication, if we're talking about not jumping to snap judgments, to think before you do, and then really think about the motivation behind that. If you're a vindictive person and you're out to tear somebody down, you will be called out for it, and eventually it will catch up to you. And I hope that there is some kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
Punishment.
Well, there's going to be a boomerang effect eventually.
Very much so.
It's going to catch up to you. And then what's that going to do? I mean, I think a lot of this stuff is you're not thinking long term. And basically, when it comes down to it, I mean, you want just be a decent human being, I mean, what happened to just general respect for one another, respect your space, respect your opinions, and again, agree to disagree. It's okay. At the end of the day, it's fine to do that. It moves the conversation along. But here's the thing. I mean, we live on Earth. Gravity holds us down. All right. We don't need help being torn down, guys. We do this to ourselves every day. We do it to every other person. Eventually we're going to be 6 feet under if we're not the ash.
Right.
It takes more energy to uplift people, and maybe we're just that friggin' lazy. I don't know what the excuse is.
One of my big problems is, Meredith, an old buddy of mine just popped in here, Paul Surratt. we went to high school together,
Mhm.
and we graduated in 1987, man, long freaking time ago. What is so sad to me is that we seemed, as a high school, as a generation, we seem to be much further along in acceptance and race relations at that point than what we are now. And that should tell you something. Paul knows that my best friend all throughout high school was Donald, and we used to screw with people, man, on purpose, because we went to a very not highfalutin, but we had a lot of preps, a lot of rich people. Donald and I would screw with people constantly, man. He would be at one end of the hall and I would be at the other, and I would just hear, "Fuck you, cracker." And I would turn around and I'd say, "F you," N-word. And everybody would spread out across the halls and just expecting a fight. And we would walk up together and we'd shake hands and then turn around and get the hell out of school because we was going to go get high together. But we did that shit constantly through 4 years of high school. Well, 3.5. We met our second semester of our freshman year. We were brothers from then on out, and we did it to shake up the establishment, to throw off the status quo, because that's how people thought back then. And I remember, like I told you, we had the rebel and the Confederate flag as our mascot. And I asked him one time, I was like, "Ducky, how do you feel about the rebel flag?" And he said, "Man, I don't give two shits about it. It's a Southern pride thing." That was in 1987, 86. We're a long way from there. And we've gone the wrong way.
Yeah. I mean, for me, all right, so my earliest memories are when my father was stationed in Korea. So I was just a kid. And we moved back to the States when I was in first grade. So I was about 5 or 6 at the time, because I was one of the younger kids. And I remember when we first moved into the apartment complex at Stewart Airport Base, and I saw my first black girl. And I remember her name. Her name is Angela, and her brother Monty. Okay. First time I ever saw little children of color. And I was blown away, because for me, it was just beautiful. And to see her hair.
We've talked about this.
Remember the hairpins with the marbles on the end of them?
Yes.
And so she had them, and she had these big pom-poms, and I was just fascinated. And I was so curious.
Wanted to touch their hair.
I wanted to touch her hair, but not only that, I sat over and I sat next to her, and she was playing with something, in the dirt and stuff, and we were just playing together. And I was just like, "Your skin is beautiful. It looks like chocolate." And I'm like, "Does it taste like chocolate?" And she's like, "No." And she's like, "No, do you taste like vanilla?" I'm like, "I don't think so." So we licked each other. I mean, that was like my first experience with a black child. And it was just I didn't know that. I just knew that it was just beautiful.
But the thing is,
the color and the hair, and it was just, there was something beautiful about that and different from me. And so I grew up like that. So when I see all of this stuff, I'm so mystified and confused. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Because at the end of the day, we became good friends until they moved away, because that's the way of military families and stuff.
Right.
And, so I just never got it. I never will. But that's my story. And Paul's laughing at my story. It is funny, but that was kids who don't know any better. And there was no hate. There was nothing dividing us. There was nothing that said you're dangerous to me. So I mean, to this day, I don't understand that because that's the way I grew up.
And and Paul, I just got to say, give me a dip of snuff. That's one thing I always hit him up with in high school. I had to get a dip from him. I think he was the one I used to set his alarm off in his truck to make him run outside to give me a dip. But while he was in metal shop, but yeah, he's laughing at me. But you know, you reminded me of something here. You were going back to elementary school.
Mhm.
I got hit up. It's probably been a year now. I had a guy that messaged me on Facebook, and he was like, "Hey, do you remember me? We were best friends in third and fourth grade, third, fourth, and fifth. We went to the same elementary school together. His name's Jacques Daniels, and he's a very successful man. He was funny as shit as a kid. He's even funnier as a grown man, and which is, great because he kept his sense of humor, or actually sharpened it, I guess, because we just got to talking and talking about old times. But the cancel culture, again, swinging back around to why we started this whole damn show tonight. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, Iranian, Iraqi, Middle Eastern, whatever. You can be the subject of cancel culture just because someone hears something about you and decides to push it forward. And that's what happened last night into today. This person decided to take innuendo and stuff that she heard and weaponize it and try to get somebody canceled off of something we did months ago, and try to put our feet to the fire on why we had this person on. How could you possibly do this without putting their feet to the fire?
And what was the motivation behind that?
Exactly.
I mean, it really speaks to motivation. And that makes me question their integrity, But I don't think enough people are pushing back against that kind of a wrong, And here's the thing. I cannot stand it. I really cannot stand it when people apologize or over apologize for things that, one, they didn't do, or that apology is insincere, because then what you're doing is you are erasing the meaning and the depth behind a true
Yes.
apology.
Yes.
You're taking away the power of something that is very important to us. And that bothers the hell out of me. So, when you're accused and then you apologize to shut somebody up, that's not helping either. It's not. And that concerns me. Again, it's that matter of communication. It's like, oh, well, I don't want to have this argument and stuff like that. So I'm just going to apologize and get out of the way. No, don't do that.
No.
Especially if you're not wrong, especially if there's no reason for an apology. Again, it takes away the importance of that act. It takes away the sincerity of it, and then what are you left with?
Exactly.
Just hollow words. And again, with the motivation and things, when somebody's digging that far into your past, one, get a life. Two, think about your motivation. And three, you remember the golden rule: do unto others as you'd like done to you.
I wish
Hey.
that more people would consider that one, because if they stopped to think about that, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, we would see a lot of this stopped. And Paul just said something here, you know, why apologize for slavery if you didn't have anything to do with it? This is a big one for me because in the last few weeks, I have seen people get down on their knees and apologize to black people for their white privilege. I do understand in a way, because if you have been in that white privilege mode all your life and you've been ignoring the plight of African Americans and other people of color, and you've just been focusing on your life, I can see apologizing for that point of view. But to apologize for slavery, man, my ancestors were American Indian. How about y'all apologize to me? You know, not the African Americans. I mean, the colonizers. How about, you know, we talk reparations for my people. We can just go on and on. I'm not saying or trying to diminish what the African American society has gone through, because God Almighty knows they have been put through shit after shit after shit after shit. And it's not right. But what I am saying, especially with that last video that we showed, is that you can't weaponize that, folks. I don't care what color you are, what you have been through in your life. You cannot weaponize your color, whether you were white. And I totally meant to grab those, that the famous couple that came out with a submachine gun and the chick with her finger on the trigger, because that one I kind of understood too. The people broke through their gate, their gated community. They broke it down. They went into a private community, and these folks came out. Granted, they overreacted, coming out with a freaking AK or M16, whatever the hell it was, and then her pistol, and her finger was on the damn trigger like she was ready to cap, when the people weren't even on her yard or their yard. And that, even though they busted down the gate, they did break it. They were quote unquote peaceful at that time. But I understand, sons of bitches, I live on a very private road. I got signs up that says private property. You come past my private property signs, especially today, you are going to get met with a gun. I've done it 3 times in the last month. I will continue to do so. You have no business coming down my road. I understand what these people went through, but they've been demonized, that they are, you know, Trump supporters and they're lawyers. They should have known better and all of that shit. Well, they felt that their home was in jeopardy. They overreacted. Meredith, I know you hadn't seen anything on this one. I think it's St. Louis couple that I think, don't quote me on. I'm pretty sure it's St. Louis though. But for them to just come out and pull weapons on people that are not in their yard, not on their property, not in their driveway, and point loaded weapons with their fingers on the trigger, wrong. You're wrong. If they came on your property and they were starting towards your beautiful home with all your antiques and stuff inside of it, you have every right to protect yourself. You have every right to protect your property, especially in the state of Texas, which they weren't. But I don't know what the laws are in Missouri. They weren't facing any charges at this point. But again, social media was weaponized against these people. They've already shown up on commercials on both the left and the right. And these poor people, people are calling for them to be disbarred. People are calling for them to lose their house and to be kicked out of the community. And again, we're weaponizing the cancel culture and swinging back around to that person that contacted us over these unsubstantiated rumors. they expect, well, I know what this person expected us to do. They expected us to take everything at face value, delete the article,
Thing down. Mhm.
and just totally blow everything out of proportion. But when I called them on it, they just went silent until I called their bullshit and said, I can't believe that you would come to me without any evidence. And then it was, oh no, I've got evidence. I'm just trying to get evidence that's firsthand instead of second and third. Okay, well, you came to me expecting me to cancel and go off on this person based off of your second and third hand knowledge, not off of actual proof. You weren't assaulted by this person. Your brother, sister, mother, cousin, nobody was directly involved in this.
Mhm.
You're going to expect me as a managing editor of a popular platform to totally dox this person and cancel them when you don't have a 1 ounce of proof. And it pisses me off because I keep seeing it. Like we showed the videos, and folks, if you came in late, you'll be able to watch this on my on replay and on my new channel that's coming out on Meredith's YouTube. But my new channel is Not So Happy Hour. It'll be available sometime tomorrow. And then we've got other stuff planned. Meredith and I do these shows where we call it the Tough Topic Thursday. We did one a few weeks ago, and we've got several more planned. We've got some very special guests planned for these shows. And these will go on to the Not So Happy Hour, as well as our own private platforms. As you can see, we're not on our normal platforms. We're just on our private channels because we didn't want this stuff to come back on the work that we do. And it still might. We still might get some shit. But you know what?
Well, Geek Insider, all right. I mean, it's no secret that we're with Geek Insider. It's an entertainment platform, and we touch on a lot of different topics and things, from tech to entertainment. We have some news things and stuff like that. And we do fun events and things. And again, when we interview people, we do a soft search on their history because we want to be able to talk to them and say, hey, I've either read your things, I've watched your movies, or I've seen some of your history and stuff like that. And again, unless they're raping babies and doing horrific things like that, and definitely illegal, definitely charged. You know what? Everybody makes mistakes, but I do believe that there is room for redemption for most people. Not the baby rapists. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if you are bored enough to go digging through, I don't know, a decade's worth of tweets and Facebook and articles and things like that to find the one piece that, and I'm going to pop this up, that looks like that.
Right.
All right. You see the true story on the outside, but then you see what's on the screen. If you're looking for that screenshot, then I think maybe you're the one that's got the problem.
Yeah. And Paul, I don't know where that came from, the legalizing marijuana, but buddy, I've always been about that, even back in the 80s.
But Matthew, we've been here for an hour and a half.
Yeah, we have. So I guess it's time to shut it off, considering this wasn't scheduled. It was just me saying, Meredith, I'm pissed off. I want to do a show. I sounded like Cartman, and I pulled out all the stops. Meredith is still trying to get her computer set up. But folks, we really appreciate you tuning in. And Shalise, this is an old employee of mine that popped in. Her and I, she still says I'm one of the best bosses she ever had. So Meredith, you can take that to the bank. Shalise worked for me years ago with Microsoft Xbox. and she still says I'm one of the best bosses she ever had. So you remember that as we go forward, and you just say, yes, Matthew, yeah, you're one of the best bosses. All right, so I'm dreaming here, but really and truly,
Wake
folks,
up. It's going to be a hell of a hangover tomorrow.
shit, I'm only 2 in. I'm fixing to have another one. And Shalice says, see, look, she agreed. She said, yes, sir. But ladies and gentlemen, I don't care what color you are. I truly do not. But before you go out and try to dox someone because you've seen a video, remember that there's always 3 sides to the story. There is the wronged side, there is the side that is doing the wrong, and then there's the truth. And that's where we have to put our efforts into, not immediately jumping on one side or the other. Do 2 minutes of Google search or YouTube search for the full video. Wait a couple of hours before you jump in and say, hey, get this person fired. Because as we proved tonight, it's not always the full story. So thank you all for joining in. This will be the inaugural video of the Not So Happy Hour. It'll be available on Meredith's YouTube. Thank you all. I didn't expect this to go 30 minutes, let alone an hour and a half, but I think we had some good topics. And exactly, Amy, the truth is usually outside the bubble. And that's exactly the way we should end. Thank you all. You all
Yep.
make sure if you haven't
And I
already
want
done
to,
so.
yep. And I
Go
just
ahead.
want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for the hour and a half that we've been here. And, we really appreciate you. And, the dialogue on the side here and just interacting with us, because I know we're not alone in this. There is sanity. There are sane people. There are people who are willing to think. And, it's kind of crazy to think that we are the ones who are thinking outside of the box anymore.
You got that right.
Wow. When did that happen? The world really is upside down.
Yeah. I mean, you talk to some of these folks that I went to high school with, and for them to go, Matthew is the voice of reason.
Right.
I never saw that shit
Oh,
coming.
shit.
Right. What's the world coming to? But thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We don't have any kind of regular schedule for this yet. Meredith and I got a lot going on. I do want to tell you to watch Geek Insider next weekend. We got some killer shit going on. We got a whole indie con. We got some cool stuff. Yes, this is off platform. I wasn't supposed to throw any commercials in there, but you all know already, you can find us on Geek Insider. We got some cool stuff coming out, and I'm going to promote Meredith's little side project, or big side project, Wild One Forever, the women-centric site where ladies can talk about real subjects that matter in a safe place. Check it out. It is taking off like freaking hotcakes, man. I ain't bullshitting here. Check it out, everybody. We'll see you all next time whenever we get something like this going. But otherwise, follow us on geekinsider.com. Y'all have a great night, everyone. And thanks so much for tuning in.